Good morning, Reading 370 folks. I hope you all had a good weekend. This is Monday and it is the beginning of week 8. We are actually picking up where we left off last week, week 7, which was a little bit different, but it concerns lesson planning for teaching writing. So let's just look really quick at where we left off. I'm just going to show you this to give you an example of what you should be posting today if you haven't already. I asked you to write quickly to a prompt about a time that you were with someone that you remembered, some sort of memorable experience, a very broad, general writing prompt. But the purpose of that writing prompt was to get something on paper. Often you'll be asking your students to write to a prompt, whether it's a quote, a picture, a memory, a picture book. My prompt came from the book Saturdays and Tea Cakes, with the idea that this little boy had spent a lot of good times, good Saturdays. So I thought, well, what were some good times that we have all had with someone in our past? Or a memory could be more recent. So as you can see, and I'm picking this one just to see who had posted. So Sarah, thanks for letting me post your work here. You can see that Sarah posted her original thinking, and then she went back in after the mini lesson and did the revisions that were part of the mini lesson on sound devices that we did last week. And she highlighted those in a different color ink. So I haven't read this yet, Sarah. I'm sure it's wonderful. But the point is I'm showing that this is what it should look like. And hopefully you benefited from that writing experience. So thank you very much. I'm going to go back into our week 8 lesson. And this time you're going to actually be doing your own mini lessons. So the first thing is, let's look at the top. You're going to start with chapters 8 and 9 in the reading writing workshop. I want you to read those. That should wrap up the book so that you have a good sense of what a reading or what a writing workshop is all about, and a good sense of, or a preliminary sense, I should say, on teaching writing. We are going to base a lot of our work on the 6 traits of writing, and I'm going to do that in a different video to avoid having such long videos. That's one of my goals. So I'll post that separately so that we can introduce a good sense of what 6 traits are. I'll just tell you briefly, it's how we assess writing generally in the big world. And this is what I'm recording right now, the writing lesson plan. And then here's the write-up sheet. So I'm going to go ahead and pull that up. So here we have the write-up. So the first thing that you're going to do is, after you read this and hear about this from my presentation, I want you to go into Google Sheets. And I'm going to pull that up right here. You can see some people have already signed up. These are the different write traits. You'll notice that the one that I chose is voice. I chose to work on voice, or to give a mini lesson on voice, and sound devices is something that would fall on voice. Now, why would you know that? Only because our voice is, once you learn a little bit more about the different write traits, you'll understand that voice is the writer's personality. It's something that distinguishes one's writing from someone else. So therefore, sound devices elaborate our writing and make our voice a little bit clearer because of the way that we have potentially added to the piece to elaborate it. So I chose a 3rd grade one, and here's my name. And of course, I'm not in a group, so I gave myself 0. Your job is simply to choose the grade level that your group wants. You only, I would like it for us to all, I didn't fix this very well, so I just thought about this. Or actually, I'm sorry, this is your group number. And then I want you to choose your grade level. It would be great that if we could all have a different grade level. But let me know if you really want something that somebody already has. So try to spread the wealth. And then you're going to type your group member names here, and then the topic, which is something very specific that's going to come from the TEKS. And I believe that I showed you the TEKS site. What is it called? TEKS guide. There it is. See, mine pops up right away because I use it all the time. So you can go and find your grade level here. You go in, remember, to English Language Arts, and you pick your grade level. let's say you're going to do grade 5 and you search, then you select your skills. And so I would probably be choosing from, you could choose from multiple genres. You can choose from authors, purpose, and craft, most likely, because that's writing, and composition is definitely writing. So let's say you choose something and you want to do something grammar related. You're probably going to choose composition, and it should be popping up. So 5th grade composition, maybe you want to look at organizing with a purposeful structure. So, and you're going to focus on transition words and maybe a conclusion. So these would be the words between paragraphs that give your writing a smooth sense of flow and such. So those are just, maybe you're going to work on the power of nouns or verbs and how they work. There's so many things that you can choose from. And I'm going to let you make the decision with your group on what you want to teach. So let's close this out so we can move back in here. Let's see, where was my, oh, sorry, that's another class. Okay, so here we go. And I need you to do that by Wednesday so that everybody has their topics, everybody knows what everyone else is doing, so you can get to the work because we've got a lot to do in the next 2 weeks. All right, so you're going to collaboratively prepare your lesson in a shared document. So here's your lesson plan template. It's going to pop up here. And you will see, I think I already have it here, so I had it here. I'm going to stick to the tab I'm in. For this template, what I'd like you to do is to click File, make a copy. And if you make a copy, it will copy it to your Google Drive. Then you can go ahead and edit the new one. This is extremely important. You need to go up to Share, and you're going to need to put anyone with the link, and you need to put editor, because if you put viewer, nobody else can write in it. And am asking for editor, right? So that I can work with you should I need to, or if you ask me to. I am more than happy to help you with this planning. But it should say anyone with the link. And in this case, it would say editor. Okay, so see, it would update, but I am not going to give this document editor rights. And the reason for that, and then you can copy the link and you can insert that when you send it to me or you send it to your team. The reason I didn't make this editing is because everybody would write in it and it would mess up the template and nobody would have it. You can also simply download it, and you can download it as a Microsoft Word document, and then you can work in that, and then you can upload that to Google, but you still have to share. If you don't share when you turn it in, I'm not going to be able to see your assignment and you won't get credit. So here's the plan on the template. This first part is largely just information to get yourself set up. So this is going to be the group number and your student, the people that are in your group. The mini lesson topic, you already picked it. You're going to put that up there. The TEKS, I just showed you how to find those. And the TEKS strand, that's going to be whether it's composition, author's craft, multiple genre, whichever one it is that I showed you in the TEKS guide. And then, of course, the learning objective. So you can copy that learning objective and post it right in here. You don't have to retype it. And then whatever materials you're going to use. Notice it says mentor text. You have to have a mentor text. You cannot do this lesson without a mentor text because that is best practice. So where do we get mentor text? Remember, we've talked about these. I recommend that you use a piece of literature. You can use an excerpt from a literature. If you're doing an older grade, you might do something that's coming out of a novel, but it's not the whole novel. It's merely a few pages or the chapter of the novel. I once did a mini lesson where we had openings and closings of a piece. And so we looked at all of the different ways that the chapters in a particular book opened, and we studied that as our mentor text. Your own writing could be a mentor text as well. And then you're going to explain the rationale. Why are you doing this? What inspired you to do this? I wrote my lesson that you saw last week from the perspective of me being a teacher of pre-service students. You're my students, so you're my audience, and I was addressing a need that I saw in our classroom. I expect you to do the same thing. Of course, you have a fictitious audience, and you're going to explain which right trait you are addressing and why. And then, so that's really your reasoning behind how you got here. The central focus or purpose of the lesson is, what do you aim to get out of this? What is your purpose for teaching this lesson, as if you were talking to students? And then you move into the meat of it. And here you have the mini lesson. It goes from here, anywhere you have these red, the red ink, that's your mini lesson. So all of the other part is before the mini lesson, you're thinking. This part is the actual lesson that you're going to do as a demonstration. So think of it, there's 4 parts. You have connection, teach, active engagement, and link. In the work that I submitted to you last week about mini lessons, those were the 4 categories that are generally accepted across the board, through many, many people who will write about what is a mini lesson and what goes into it. Notice it's really short. It's only about 10 to 15 minutes long. So you're going to connect with your audience, and you're going to connect to what you've already been learning or something that makes sense to students. And I gave you some various different prompts to get you started with the language you would use in front of students. I expect these to be filled out in narrative form. This is your rehearsal. This is where you write it like you would say it. You're writing essentially your own script. I attempted to do that in the one that I modeled for you last week. Then you move, and that's going to go in here where you're doing what we call the activating schema or the hook. So you may remember last week, boys and girls, that we were reading stories about our favorite holidays, and we've actually done some quick writes to our favorite holidays. So we're going to be taking one of those and developing it into a larger personal narrative. Well, who are we going to be writing this for? Well, we're going to make a class book out of personal narratives. So et cetera, et cetera. You've got to hook your kids. You could hook your kids if you're in the middle of a lesson with a video, with a piece of text. This is really, really quick, and it is not, please understand, this is not the teaching part. This is just getting kids to focus and get their head wrapped around what it is that they're going to be doing today. And this is where then you end the thought with, and our purpose for today, or our purpose for reading, or our purpose for writing is this. Get them set up. And then you move into the teach part. So let me show you how we're going to do this together. And then you might tap into that piece of text. Remember, you're not reading the whole book in advance because you don't have time. Sometimes it takes 10 minutes to read a book, but it does, so when you do the book and the mini lesson, that's too much. So let me segue here. Last week, I gave you a separate link within my presentation for the book of Saturdays and Tea Cakes. I did that for those of you who would want to read that book on your own. However, the mini lesson itself did not reference the entire book. I only pulled out a few pages. Your job, you are going to give us that source. You're going to give us the whole book in some link somewhere that's maybe beforehand. Say, boys and girls, remember this book, and then you can send us to it, but we're not going to read all of it. We're just going to focus on a few pieces that are going to help us to better understand how to do whatever skill it is that we're doing. I'm anticipating you're going to go read that on your own because you think it might be a cool book to read, but that's not part of this lesson. We would have read that story already. So this is where you model. This is where you teach by modeling exactly what you expect to do. I could actually put up here the part where it's the I do. This is the I do. And then we move into the we do. And then we move into the you do. So if I had typed it in here, which I did not, I've done it on other lesson templates, actually, I'll type it right here. Ooh, my mistake. This is going to say I do. And the I do portion of a lesson is where you're going to do it for the students in front of them, so they see exactly what you mean. Then you move into the guided practice, which is going to be the we do. And this is where you do it together with students and they're modeling. You might be observing them working together in turn and talk, small groups, whatever it is that allows you to see, do they get it? Are we practicing together? This is where you can guide them if there's a mistake, where they're going to do exactly what you ask them to do. And I tried to show you that in our lesson that we did together last week. And then, so see, it says now it's time for you to try it out. Now you will try it and I will watch you. So this is a good time for you to redirect if you see something is not going well. Sometimes we even ask a student or two to share their particular example so that we are celebrating their writing at the same time as that we're validating what they're doing. And it's an example because kids listen to each other. And then you're going to move into the link part where you are going to send them off. You're linking them to what they're going to be doing next. Remember, this is a strategy you can use today and every day as a reader, writer, or whatever it is that you choose. That's just a thought. So prepare your students for independent practice. What are you going to tell them? When you go to your stations, when you go back to your seats, I often had kids sitting at the floor and we were doing this mini lesson. We were doing all of this up to the link part. And I'd say, okay, so how many of you are ready to go? And show of hands. Okay, so if you know exactly what topic you're going to be writing about, raise your hand. So I would call on this person, I'd listen to their topic and I'd send them off. Listen to this person, send them off. That depends on the size group that you have and you know who needs help and who doesn't. So this is where you send them off to do independent practice. And then that's going to be the you do part where they work independently. So at this point in time, we then move and close where they have independent practice for, I would say that's the bulk of time. Remember, that's about 30 minutes that they're working independently. They're working, they might be using this time to have a peer conference. They might be using this time to be working with you in a small group peer conference as well. That's your choice on how you use that, but this is the perfect guided writing time for you in that small group that you realize, oh, they didn't quite get it. I always look at who are the ones that I know are going to struggle to work independently. And so you release the ones that are going to be doing just great by themselves. They're ready to go. You know your kids by now. You send them off and then you sit down quietly or you send them all off and then you go find that small group that really needs you and you work together for a little bit before you send that group off. And then we close up the entire lesson and this is going to be your share time. It's your assessment time. This is how you can do informal assessment without having to take home a bunch of essays to grade them. That's not what this is all about. So maybe you call on a few students to come up to the author's chair. Maybe you do a whip around where they, in the case of the writing that we did, where we were just working on a particular line or phrase or skill like sound device. So I'd say, boys and girls, please pick one sound device, one sentence that you chose to revise, and we're going to quickly share all of those. So I might say, okay, Susie, what was your first sentence? Now tell us your revised sentence. Or everybody just read their strongest sentence, and you don't have to do anything except let them share it to get excited about their writing and so that you can see, oh, this is really good. And they like to hear each other's work. So then you move into this in the lesson plan right here. I want you to post the links or the resources of the materials that you're using to help you develop the lesson that you're turning in. And I'm going to show you where I posted some websites to help you out. And then you're going to post the presentation. It says insert or post a link to the YouTube video of your lesson demonstration. Because once you've completed this lesson plan, and let's go back to D2L. Ooh, here we go. So that's the part I just described. You're going to prepare your lesson plan in this document, and that's due on Monday, 1 week from today. And you're going to submit that to, I believe there's an assignment. We'll double check, make sure I'm right. And then you're going to create a demonstration of your lesson in a video for the class to follow. So, by the way, if you choose to share your lesson plan as a link to your Google document, I will accept that. It doesn't have to be a Word document. You just need to make sure that I can get into that document. That way you can go back in afterwards and post the link to your video to the bottom of that lesson. You don't have to resubmit. Some people may wish to go back and submit the video link later on, maybe even in the discussion part. It's totally up to you how you wish to do that. but I'm trying to keep it from you having to do multiple lessons all over the place or multiple submissions of things. Keep it nice, clean, and streamlined, because your demonstration for that video is not due until later on in the week. So you don't have a lot of time, but I want it in by the 8th because I want to get all of this done before we go to spring break. So you're going to go to the class Padlet, and ultimately you're going to be putting it over here where it says writing teaching demonstration. You'll click on the plus and you'll submit your video there. Because after spring break, we're going to get together and we're going to go back in, and much like you did here, we're going to go back in and we're actually going to do each other's lessons. So here, let me segue backwards just a little bit. Somebody asked me a really good question the other day, and that is, well, what are they using to create this lesson? This is a little bit convoluted because we haven't been in a proper writing workshop. We haven't been working on a lot of pieces. All of my writing, my students have always had a writer's notebook. It's one of those little, what do they call, like those composition notebooks where they keep their lessons, their mini lessons, everything, all the work goes in there. That's their workbook. It's their brain. I used to call it their brain. And so they put in that notebook the drafts of whatever it is that they're writing. And usually I start so many classes with just a free write where kids already have a list of what they're going to be working on. So they come in and they just write for 10, 15 minutes while the class is getting assembled and everybody's settling down into their moment. Sometimes I'll have a prompt on the board. So this is where you are going to have to start your lesson with something where you say, ladies and gentlemen, please write for X number of times. Some people have even put a timer on their lessons so that people can actually write for that period of time. The timer goes off, and now they have something to work with. Now your lesson can begin. So I will accept a little bit longer time in order for people to be able to do that. Otherwise, you're going to have to communicate to the class and say, go write and come to do this mini lesson with something else. But that might be a little challenging. So give us some time to have something to work on. Or you can, ideally, it comes from something that the students have written, so something you've written. You could potentially say, here's a piece of writing, and you present that writing already done, somebody else's writing, and then you ask the students in your mini lesson to go back and revise or work on whatever the strength to analyze and do something with that writing. But the idea is that this is not a grammar mini lesson structure. This is meant to generate and improve our own writing, because writing is thinking, and that's how we develop writing, through allowing someone to go through that process. So you have to have us generate something, a quick write, deliver the mini lesson around a skill, model it, have us. And now here's the other part. You have a group of 3 or 4 in your all our small groups. Use each other as the class. So you might be talking to each other on camera as if you are your own class, but we're your audience. We really are your students, but you're feeding off of each other almost like you're paired or team teaching. And you're going to have to find a way to share your screen, to show the writing pieces, the things that you're working on. Somehow you're going to have to allow us to see what's going on so we can get into your Zoom classroom. And then, of course, once you release us, because you've showed us everything that we have to do, you could have one of your teammates show what their revisions were and what they did, just like I showed you what I ultimately did. And then you send us off, and then everyone will post, and it'll be kind of fun for you to see what the results were of the teaching demonstration that you left. You can go back and monitor your own discussions on that. So that is the mini lesson in a nutshell. And so here's I gave you many, many bullets on here to help you, to guide you. Talk about how to write it as a mini lesson in a collaborative document. Here's the lesson plan template again. And then I give you some places in resources. So let's get back to right here. Okay, so I'm going to go back into our D2L. And one of the things that you're going to see in here is under content. Under content, you'll see I have a lot of things having to do with 6 traits. I should probably put those together in a sub-document, but I'll do that later. But you'll see at the very bottom, it says lesson planning resources for teaching writing. It's going to render several things. These are some things that I think you might find useful so that you are not just Googling randomly, because I don't expect you to be experts in this in any way. You don't have to use these sources, but I encourage you to at least explore them. So when I asked you to tell me where is your material coming from, this is where you get to say, I Googled it and I found this, or I went to Read, Write, Think, which is a really cool site. It's free. It's all writing lessons put together over the years by experts, and it's part of NCTE, which is a national conference for the teachers of English writing. And you can see that you've got lots and lots of lesson plans to choose from, but you can actually dig down. So let's go to lesson plans. They've got different grade levels. Let me see. I'm trying to find this better. Lots and lots of activities. Oh gosh, you just have to check this out. But see, you could explore it by grade level. Let's say you want to do something in 3rd or 4th grade, and then they're going to give you some particular featured lessons. Ooh, this is a new way. I haven't seen it done this in this section. Usually when I go to Read, Write, Think, it just pulls up. Here we go. That's what I was looking. I clicked up here. And so you can see you've got the different grade levels. There's grade 12, 496 lessons, etc. So that's what that little number means. And then you can actually pick your topic or the type of thinking you want. You might actually go into writing right over here, and you'll see that a lot of different lessons are going to start to pop up. Let me see what happens if we click on this K2 lesson. I just want to see what's going to happen. See, this window pops up again over here on the left, but it gives you the authors of the lessons, the grade strands, and it gives you standards, which are probably not TEKS standards because this is a national organization. So they're probably looking at the Common Core. So you'll have to find the TEKS that matches. You've got your instructional plan, related resource comments, etc. Lots and lots of resources. So I think you'll find this to be a very rich site, but you might have to spend some time exploring in it. This is really important that you understand where some of the best resources are. Let's go back here. One more thing. Click, click. Okay, so then I also found some things in the library because honestly, there are so many books on teaching writing. One of the best books is one by Jennifer Saravallo, and she writes, you may see it if you're in classrooms, but she writes almost a collection of mini lessons just for reading and just another whole book just for writing. But I didn't ask you to buy those books, and I can't give it to you online because it's not in a digital text. But these two are in the library. The other person to look at is anything written by Ralph Fletcher, because he's written a lot on mini lessons, a lot on how to develop the author's craft. And if you ever get to hear him at a conference, he's really worthwhile. So I'll let you click on these. Let me just do this one really quick to show you. It's going to take you to the library. So when you get there to the library, you're going to go to eBook Central or online, whichever. I have to log in. You'll probably have to log in. And let's see, it's going to take me through the process there. So once you get into the library, you're going to say read online. You do not have to check this book out. You simply have to read online. And then you've got all sorts of lessons and various things that you can choose from. I'm going to let you explore in your own time. So I'm hoping that that will make your lives a little bit easier in terms of narrowing down a lesson, because quite honestly, we keep going out to the expert to find out, well, how do you teach this? How do you teach that? We don't have to reinvent the wheel. But I will tell you, do not go to teachers pay teachers. Number one, I don't want you to pay for anything. There's a lot of free stuff out there, but I don't want you to buy anything. And the second thing is, a lot of the teacher pay teachers are taken from previously printed materials that somebody else thought of. So I'm giving you sources where I'm giving you the original author of that particular text. And so I want you to know how to do that when you find things, rather than just going to somebody who did all this work. You have to transform it into something that works to fit our template. And granted, you're not going to be creating that template for everything you do in your regular job. It's very long, we know that. But this is preparing you for internship and residency, where you're going to be writing a lot of lesson plans, and your template will have your lesson plan template will have a lot of these elements, not exact match. It's going to look a little different, but all of the thinking and all of the work that I've asked you to do through these activities prepares you to do that and to develop the kind of thinking that you must do as a teacher that becomes really very, very automatic over time. So there's some information about the teaching demonstration. I give you a lot of hints here. And what else? And then finally, you're going to end this whole thing with a reflection. So once you've done the lesson plan and you've done your teaching demonstration, you're going to write a reflection of the process and how you collaborated with your team, similar to how you did that before. And I give you some guiding things to think about when you submit your assignments. So let's go back to D2L. I should probably close that out. Let's go back to D2L here and go to content, just to make sure that you see how this wraps up. So there's your lesson plan template. Here's the information to review. There's the TEKS guide site for 6 traits. Here's the lesson planning resources, and that's under content. So if you look on the left, here's the week, here's content, here's the resources. It's a sub-module. I think I'll collect and make sure that you have 6 traits here. It'll make it cleaner for you to see. And then you'll have your assignments. So click here to sign up for the lesson your group wants to teach. Do that by Wednesday so that nobody is in doubt and everybody's on board and ready to go. Then the next thing is you're going to write your lesson plan. Here is, again, the structure of the lesson. And then here is where you're going to do your reflection and did I ask you to submit a link to your demonstration? You can put it in here. It'll be in Padlet. Just make sure that everybody needs to submit to D2L. Only one person needs to submit to the Padlet unless of course, you're doing the replies. So let me repeat that because sometimes I confuse people. Everyone needs to submit to D2L. Even if you're part of a group, everyone should submit the work for the group, because then I know that everybody's participated and you all have that same body of language, and that not one person is just submitting without the other people in the group knowing. You're owning it. So you're submitting the link, even if it's the group link. And then the rest is hopefully pretty clear. And then the Padlet, of course, only one person for the group needs to submit the link, because we don't want to have 25 videos and a quarter of them being repeated. So I hope this makes sense. The next thing I will try to post about is just a really quick overview of what it means to write traits. And thanks very much. I hope you have a good time with this. Enjoy the journey. I can't wait to see your writing lessons. This is one of my very favorite things to do. I love teaching writing. And have a great week. Bye-bye.